Gentiles, you were promised by God to have inherited all sorts of lies, and that in the days before Messiah returns, you're going to come and say these words. O Yahweh, my strength and my fortress, my Elohim, my refuge in the day of affliction, the Gentiles shall come to you from the ends of the earth and say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, worthless and unprofitable. So, what are those worthless and unprofitable things that you're going to come to the Lord and say, we realize these were worthless and unprofitable. These were lies. Here's some clues. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so now Jeremiah chapter 10 admonishes the children of God to say, hey, he says, don't go to the forest, cut down a tree, don't bring it into your house and decorate it with silver and gold. Tree from the forest. There's a song called Silver and Gold. Okay. Now, was that an actual, quote, Christmas tree? No, it was the same idolatrous practice, though, that this was based upon. Did you know that when you put the presents under the tree, you're bowing to the false god that gave you those presents? Yeah, and if it was the birth of Jesus, which it wasn't, why would you give each other presents on a day that he was born? Have you ever considered that there might be a different tradition that you're doing that you don't even know why you're doing it, right? Thing is, there was a winter solstice celebration for different gods of the different nations, specifically based on sun worship. That's a lie. Boom! Once you realize Christmas was not in the Bible, not what God wanted us to do, definitely fat men in red suits are not the thing of God. You know, he doesn't even accolade those who are fat. He talks about us being healthy, taking care of the temple. Anyway, the point being, that's not what God wanted us to do. He had 7 festivals in the Bible we are to do. So, Gentiles, please tell him, this is worthless and unprofitable, and chuck it away. Now, another thing. Boom. Halloween. Really? Like, this is so wicked and demonic. The witches love this. Satan loves that you worship all the devil and the demonic things of the world on that night. Birthday candles. The prayers to patron saints. Did you know that that was a pagan thing? Bunnies. Egg-laying bunnies. To celebrate the birth of Christ. Did you know that Easter was the name of a Babylonian goddess and that the Bible tells us Jesus, Yeshua, was rose on the Feast of First Fruits? So all these things, take them and chuck it out the window because that's what's prophesied to happen. Then we're told, remember the law of Moses. So this is Yah telling in Malachi chapter 4 that before the coming and dreadful day of the Lord, he would send Elijah the prophet to help us remember the law of Moses. So the lies you've been taught told you that Christmas and Easter and all these worldly traditions were okay in God's eyes. But the Bible tells a different story. The Bible tells a story of a Yeshua who walked out the covenant, the Torah, and taught us to do so. The Bible actually has prophecies that Messiah Yeshua would come and teach us to obey the law. Isaiah 42. See, Gentiles were always promised to be grafted into the same people, treated the same way, and have the same rule set of the kingdom. The law never saved us. Faith saved us, and then you get brought into the kingdom, and to become a promised land person, we have to obey the promised land rules. In Isaiah 56, Gentiles, it tells you to obey the same rules. Right here, you're told, all the believers of God are told to remember the law of Moses before the coming and dreadful day of the Lord. In Exodus 12:49, Numbers 15, Leviticus 17, Leviticus 19, Leviticus 24, Isaiah 56, like I mentioned, Ezekiel 47. Everywhere we read of Romans 11, 1 Corinthians 7:19, there's one law, the same law for the Israelite and Gentile. And the festivals and the festivities and like Christmas and all this stuff that you've been taught that are okay, that are of the world, those things aren't okay. In fact, God cast Israel out of the land for that. And some of you Gentiles are the scattered Israelites who have suffered the consequences for that. In fact, those of you who like to eat your pork, did you know one of the judgments put upon the children of Israel was that they were going to go to the Gentile nations and eat unclean things? You should go check out Hosea, I think it's chapter 9. So that pork, that Christmas, all those things are not blessings. They're not freedom. You've been bound in sin. You've returned to the things from which you were supposed to be saved. So why don't you remember the law of Moses, chuck away all the lies that you've inherited from your fathers, and just come back and do what God says. If you want to be a rebel, let's be a rebel for righteousness. Okay, I love you all.